Hi everyone and welcome to another HMW art video. So today's tutorial is going to be on a design inspired by the henna design on Beyoncé's hand. You can see that I have taken the key elements of the design on Beyoncé's hand and incorporated it into this design, and then everything else outside of the key elements is just whatever I have made up. So the key elements on the Beyoncé design, if you for instance want to create your own inspired design from it, is first of all the two paisleys that you can see I have sketched out, and the three lines that come off of the top paisley. They kind of remind me of clothing lines. And the last key element I would say is the finger details. The finger details have a lot of lines on them. They're not really swirly details. So I took all of those key elements and put it into this design, and then just added in whatever else I felt like adding in. So the reason why I traced out the design before filling in the details in the paisleys is because I hadn't done henna in a while on my hand, and my hands just weren't in gear. You know, when you take a lot of time out from doing something artistic like drawing or anything like that, when you first come back to drawing, you kind of need time, or you may need time, to just get your hands back into gear, to get them working and used to what they need to do. I didn't do that, and my hands just weren't responding to what my mind wanted it to do. So in the end, I had to wash off the design that I did the first time, and because I lacked confidence in putting down the design right away, I traced it out. So that's why you see the tracing from before I started to do the design. So the filler details are completely random. One of the best things about my mistake here, and my mistake is that paisley right there, that first paisley, was done way too thick. That was completely accidental, but it ended up being one of the best parts of my design, because when the stain came out, that first paisley was so dark. It's the darkest I've ever had on the palm of my hands, and it's really saying something, because I don't stain well. So every time I see a nice stain come out, I think to myself, wow, you know, chemical henna did not do this for me when I first started. I couldn't get anything beyond a light orange stain with chemical henna, and to see natural henna bring out this beautiful deep brown stain, I was truly impressed. Now I think in the future I might incorporate really thick design elements just like that paisley, just to get that brilliant stain. So anyway, you can see me adding in details around the wrist. Now, obviously on Beyoncé, you can't see anything beyond her wrist because she has bangles, etc. on. So everything that I'm doing right now is just completely made up. I was struggling so much in doing this design. If you could see how long it took me. I mean, this design should have really not taken beyond the 20 to 30 minute mark. It took me more than 2 hours, and that's a combination of the fact that my hands just weren't getting into gear, and I was also making mistake after mistake after mistake. By the end of the design, you'll be able to see sections of my hand where I have this light orange stain, because I kept making mistakes and then having to wipe it off, and I obviously didn't wipe it off quick enough, so it left a stain. And I feel like I had the hardest time doing this design, but ultimately I really like the end result. So even though I had a hard time, I can't complain about the design that I ended up with. I really appreciate that design, especially as I have never created a design like this. The style of henna that I'm using right now is like nothing I'd ever done, and it's in fact a style that I struggle to do. So I am completely grateful to the henna artists behind Beyoncé's design for creating that design, because ultimately I ended up creating something that I don't think I could have created for a long time without their help. And the henna artists who were behind Beyoncé's henna were Sumita and her lead henna artist, I think Prabhati Patel, I think that's her name. And if any of you don't know who Sumita is, she is a celebrity henna artist and also an entrepreneur, and she was responsible for the henna on Madonna in the Like a Prayer video, and she has also done other henna on other celebrities such as Gwen Stefani. Sumita went on the henna pages and gave us lots of lovely detail about what went on in the shoot, and she let us know that the shoot was in LA, at least the Beyoncé part of it, and that it was a 12-hour shoot, and that Sumita Batra had suggested that they use natural henna as opposed to black henna. Therefore, natural henna was a last-minute decision, and that would also explain why the stain is at its initial stages, the orange stage, rather than at maturity, because they obviously didn't have much time to do it. I personally really love the fact that the henna stain is shown at its initial stages, because I feel like a lot of people really don't understand how natural henna works. So when they have a natural henna artist do their henna, at least from my experience, they tend to get really worried when they get an orange stain. But they don't realize that the stain will mature and it will become this beautiful brown, dark brown burgundy color. So I feel like that video really raises awareness on how natural henna works. I personally appreciate that. Sumita also let us know that she was behind the concept design, I imagine for the henna design, etc. And that her lead henna artist, Prabhuti Patel, was the one who actually executed the henna on Beyoncé's hand. So you can see here I'm adding in the wrist details. By this point, because of how much I had struggled with the henna, I just thought to myself, you know what, whatever. And I just added in the design without really thinking about it. So I'm really grateful that it ended up looking decent, because it could have gone very wrong at this point. And the filler details you've seen me add in on now on top of the paisley and on the fingers, all of those were added in last minute because my hands are obviously slightly different to Beyoncé's, and the way I put the design down on my hand was very different to what was on Beyoncé. So I ended up realizing that there were gaps in my design which just did not work. It looked very disproportionate. So I started to add in filler details wherever I thought it is or they are needed, in order to make the design look proportionate and decent. And in order to do that as well, I made a lot of last minute decisions. For instance, right now you can see me add in a little two-tone henna in between, I'm going to say the washing lines, because that's what they look like. That was a last minute decision because I accidentally drew the lines on the washing line too far apart, but I didn't know that until the end of the design. But anyway, here you can see the final shot, and also you can see the stain progression pictures. This is the darkest stain that I've ever got on the palm of my hand, and I think that's because in my henna recipe I added more essential oils than I usually do. I think it did make a difference. And I guess there's nothing really left for me to say in this video except thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.